I never thought a one-night stop at a cheap roadside hotel would change how I looked at the world forever. I booked it because it was the only place available after my late flight got delayed. I was tired, sore, and just wanted a bed. Nothing about the hotel seemed unusual at first. The lobby smelled faintly of disinfectant, which doesn't really clean anything, but tries to cover up whatever's underneath. The man at the front desk hardly looked up when I checked in. His skin was pale, his eyes glazed from what I guessed was boredom or exhaustion, and his only words to me were, "Room 105. Down the hall to the left." It was late, past midnight, and the hallway lights flickered as I dragged my bag toward my room. Everything felt a little off. Not dangerous, not threatening, just off. Like a place that had been running for years without anyone ever bothering to fix things properly. The carpet was stained in odd patches, the wallpaper was peeling in corners, and the air felt heavy, like it hadn't been circulated in a long time. My room was exactly what I expected. 2 single beds with mismatched sheets, a buzzing mini fridge, and curtains that didn't quite close. I tossed my bag on the chair, kicked off my shoes, and sank onto the bed. I didn't even care about the weird stains on the carpet or the fact that the air conditioner clanged every 5 minutes. I just wanted to sleep. But then, around 2 in the morning, I heard it. At first, it was soft, muffled sobbing. A woman's voice broke in quiet gasps like she was trying to cry without being heard. It came from the room next to mine, room 106. I sat up in bed, confused. The walls were thin, so I figured maybe she was having a rough night. Breakups, stress, bad news. Who hasn't cried in a hotel room before? But then the crying turned into something else. It wasn't loud, but it wasn't random either. It had a rhythm. Almost like whimpering mixed with whispers. Words I couldn't fully make out. I leaned closer to the wall, pressing my ear against the faded wallpaper. I couldn't catch much, but I swear I heard my own room number whispered, like a breath slipping through the plaster. 105. I froze. I pulled back, shaking my head. Maybe I was exhausted and my mind was playing tricks on me. I told myself I was imagining it. But my chest felt tight and a thought hit me hard. If she knew my room number, how? That's when I decided I couldn't just sit there. I had to check. I slipped on my shoes, unlocked my door, and entered the dim hallway. Room 106 was next to mine, the door closed, and no sounds came from inside. My hand hovered over the wood for a second before I finally knocked. Silence. I waited. Then, faintly, the crying started again. Softer but definitely there. "Hello?" I called out. "Are you okay?" The sound stopped instantly, like it had been cut off. And just as I was about to knock again, I heard footsteps from down the hall. The front desk clerk, the same pale guy who barely acknowledged me earlier, was walking toward me, his face expressionless. "You shouldn't disturb that room," he said flatly. My hand dropped from the door. "What do you mean?" I asked. He stared at me for a long moment before answering. "That room has been empty all week." I stood frozen in the hallway, staring at the clerk, trying to understand what he said. Empty all week? That couldn't be right. I just heard someone in there. I wasn't imagining the sobbing. It was too distinct, too raw to be my mind playing tricks. I wanted to argue, to tell him that I'd heard someone whispering my room number, but the look on his face shut me down before I could speak. His eyes weren't annoyed or concerned, they were tired. Like this wasn't the first time someone had asked about that room. Like he'd given this exact answer more times than he could count. "What do you mean by empty?" I finally asked, my voice low. He shifted slightly, his hands behind his back, and said, "Nobody's checked into 106. Keys are locked up. It's empty." He didn't add anything else. No explanation, no comfort, nothing. Just the fact, delivered like it was the end of the conversation. I swallowed hard and nodded, pretending to believe him, but my heart was slamming inside my chest. I walked back to my room and shut the door quietly behind me, sliding the deadbolt in place. I just sat on the bed for a long time, staring at the wall separating me from 106. "Empty." He said it was empty. But I couldn't get the sound of that whisper out of my head. The way my room number slipped through the wall, it was as if someone had leaned close and breathed it directly into my ear. I tried to shake it off. I told myself it was just exhaustion mixed with an overactive imagination. Maybe the sound had come from outside, through the thin window, and I assumed it was next door. Perhaps the clerk was right and I'd gotten it twisted in my head. So I climbed back into bed, turned off the lamp, and tried to close my eyes. That's when it happened again. Not crying this time. Not even whispers. But a sound so clear and sharp it made my blood run cold. 3 knocks. From the other side of the wall. Slow. Deliberate. Like someone was announcing themselves. I shot upright in bed, staring at the wallpaper like I could see through it. My throat went dry, my hands clutching the sheets so tight my knuckles hurt. And then, just as my breathing turned shallow, I heard it. Knock. 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 This time it wasn't on the wall. It was on my door. I couldn't move. I sat frozen, the darkness around me pressing closer, my heartbeat so loud it drowned out everything else. The knocks came again, steady, patient. Whoever was outside wasn't in a rush. With shaking hands, I reached for my phone on the nightstand, the faint glow lighting up my room. I checked the time, 2:37 a.m., and I swear my heart stopped when I saw the battery. 1%. I held my breath, staring at the screen as if willing it to last long enough for me to decide what to do. Call the front desk? Call the police? Another knock. Louder this time. I forced myself to stand, the floor cold under my feet, and crept toward the door. I didn't unlock it, and I didn't even touch the handle. I just pressed my eye against the tiny peephole, praying I'd see nothing but an empty hallway. But there was someone there. A woman. Her hair hung loose, hiding most of her face. She was leaning too close, like she knew I'd be looking through the peephole. Her lips were moving, whispering something I couldn't hear. And then, as if she sensed me watching, she stopped and slowly tilted her head upward, until one pale eye was staring directly back at me. I stumbled back from the door, my heart hammering so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. That eye, cold, pale eye staring straight into mine through the peephole didn't just look at me, it felt like it saw through me. I stood in the dark, my back pressed to the wall, breathing shallow and shaky, listening for the next knock. But it didn't come. Silence. For a moment I thought maybe she'd gone, that perhaps it was some prank or even worse, someone who had the wrong room and realized it. But then, as I stood there frozen, I heard something that made me want to claw my way out of that hotel with my bare hands. A soft scraping. Metal against metal. She was trying the lock. I watched the doorknob twitch, the chain rattled gently against the door frame, and I couldn't breathe. My 1% battery still glowed on my phone in my hand, mocking me. If I tried to call anyone, they would die before I could explain what was happening. And even if I called the front desk, what could that pale clerk do? He'd already told me the room was empty. The scraping stopped. For a long stretch there was nothing. No sound. No footsteps. Nothing but the faint hum of the broken air conditioner. I thought maybe she'd left, perhaps it was over. And then, I heard it again. But this time it wasn't at my door. It was on the wall. The same wall that separated me from 106. Slow, deliberate scratches, moving up and down the surface, like nails dragging against plaster. My skin crawled as I backed up toward the bed, clutching my phone like it could protect me. The sound grew louder, closer, like she was tracing something on the other side of the wall. I turned on the lamp, desperate for light, but the bulb flickered violently, buzzing, and then went out with a faint pop. Darkness swallowed the room. And then, through that darkness, I heard a voice. Not muffled through the wall this time. Clear. Right there in the room with me. 105. It was so close it felt like someone was leaning over my shoulder, whispering directly into my ear. I spun around, wild, but the room was empty. My bag still sat on the chair, my shoes by the bed. Nothing out of place, nothing strange, except for the suffocating feeling that I wasn't alone. I stumbled to the window, yanked the curtains open, and shoved it upward. It stuck halfway, the frame warped, but I forced it enough to let in a burst of cool night air. I thought about climbing out and running into the parking lot barefoot if I had to. But when I looked down, I froze. She was standing there. Directly below my window, her head tilted up, staring at me. And this time she smiled. Not wide, not exaggerated, just a slow lip curl that didn't reach her eyes. I slammed the window shut so hard the glass rattled, stumbling backward until I hit the opposite wall. My phone buzzed in my hand, the last of its battery draining, and the screen lit up with a notification. It wasn't a text. It wasn't a call. It was a photo. A photo of me. Taken from inside the room. My stomach dropped when I saw that photo. It wasn't an old picture from my gallery, it wasn't something I could explain away. The angle was wrong. The lighting was bad. It showed me exactly as I was in that moment, standing in the dark, clutching my phone, terror in my face. And then the screen went black. Battery dead. I stood there in the silence, my whole body trembling. I wanted to scream, to kick the door down and run barefoot into the street, but my legs wouldn't move. My mind ran in circles. How could she take a picture of me if she wasn't inside the room? Was she hiding somewhere? The bathroom, the closet, under the bed? That thought hit me like a punch. The bed. Slowly, every muscle in my body tensed as I crouched and lifted the sheet hanging over the edge. My breath caught in my throat. Nothing. Just darkness, dust, and the frame. I let out a shaky exhale and sat back on the floor, clutching my knees to my chest. I was trying to convince myself I was safe and could wait out the night and leave at first light. But then I noticed something I hadn't before. The chair. The one I had tossed my bag onto when I first walked in. My shoes had been sitting beside it, neatly side by side. But now, only one shoe was there. The other was gone. I scrambled up, my pulse spiking, and turned in a slow circle, scanning every corner of the room. That's when I saw it. The missing shoe. It was propped against the bathroom door. I don't even remember deciding to move, I just ran. I grabbed my bag, yanked the deadbolt, and opened the door. The hallway was empty, the flickering lights buzzing above me. I didn't care if I looked insane. I sprinted toward the front desk, my bag smacking against my leg with every step. The clerk was still there, sitting stiff behind the counter like he hadn't moved all night. His eyes followed me as I stumbled up, gasping for air. "There's someone in my room," I blurted out. "Room 105, she's in there. You told me 106 was empty, but I heard her. She's been..." My words tangled together, panicked and wild. He raised a hand calmly, cutting me off. "You should leave," he said, his voice flat, almost rehearsed. "What?" I demanded. He leaned forward slightly, his eyes fixed on mine in a way that made my skin crawl. "You don't want to stay here. Trust me." I stared at him, waiting for him to explain and help, but he just sat back and folded his hands, like that was the end of it. I turned and looked toward the glass doors of the lobby. The night outside was dark, the parking lot empty, my car still sitting in the far corner. I could leave right now. Just grab my keys, get in the car, and drive until sunrise. But then, out of my eye, I saw something that stopped me cold. Behind the clerk was a bank of security monitors on the wall by the office door. Fuzzy black and white screens showed different angles of the hotel, the lobby, hallways, and parking lot. And on one of them, the feed from outside, I saw her, standing next to my car, waiting. My throat tightened as I stared at the monitor. There she was, the woman from the other side of the wall, standing so still it was almost unnatural. The grainy camera feed flickered, but she didn't move. Her head tilted just enough to let me know. She was looking directly at the camera. Directly at me. I stumbled back, pointing at the screen. "Who is that?" I demanded. The clerk didn't even turn his head. "You should leave," he repeated softly, like it was the only sentence he knew. "Leave." Oh. She was blocking the only way out. My car. The road. The night itself. I gripped the counter so tightly my knuckles went white. My instincts were screaming, "Don't go out there. Please don't give her what she wants." But staying inside didn't feel safe either. The lobby felt smaller every second, like the walls were pressing in. I forced myself to turn away from the monitor toward the clerk. "You know what's happening, don't you?" I hissed. "You've seen her before." For a long moment he was silent. Then, so quietly I almost missed it, he whispered, "She doesn't want the room. She wants you to see her." My blood ran cold. Before I could ask what that meant, the lights above us flickered and buzzed violently. For a second, the entire lobby was drowned in darkness. When they blinked back to life, the monitors were static. Every screen except one. The feed shows the lobby itself. And on that screen just over my shoulder, she was standing inside the building. Behind me. My chest locked up. I couldn't breathe. My eyes were glued to the monitor, to the impossible image of her standing inside the lobby, right behind me. Slowly, with every ounce of courage I didn't feel, I turned. The lobby was empty. No figure. No shadow. Just silence. I spun back to the monitor. She was still there. Same tilt of the head. Same unblinking stare. But in the reflection of the screen, I realized something that made my skin crawl. The camera wasn't showing the lobby in real time. It was showing me. A second ago. A live feed with a delay. Which meant, in the time between turning around and looking back at the monitor, she could have moved. The clerk's voice was barely audible. "She doesn't want to hurt you. She just wants to be remembered." I slammed my palm against the counter. Remembered for what? The clerk's face twitched like he was fighting himself. Then he leaned closer, whispering so softly his lips barely moved. "For what she did in this hotel. For what they never buried." The lights flickered again. This time they didn't come back. Darkness swallowed the room. And in that suffocating silence I heard it. Breathing. Not mine. The breathing grew heavier, closer, like someone standing just over my shoulder. My hands trembled against the counter as I whispered into the dark. "Where are you?" Then, faint, like wind dragging through broken glass, came her voice. "In every room they locked me in every hallway they tried to erase me from." I stumbled backward, my heel catching the edge of the rug. My phone buzzed violently in my pocket. Pulling it out with shaking fingers, I saw a single new message sent from an unknown number. Room 6. The clerk's voice cracked the silence again, though I couldn't see his face anymore. You asked what she did in this hotel. That's where it started. Room 6. The walls still remember. I should have run. I should have left. But instead, my body moved on its own, dragging me down the long hallway. Each step echoed like nails scratching through wood. When I reached room 6, the brass numbers on the door weren't numbers at all. Not anymore. They were carved into the wood, with fingernails. The door creaked open by itself. Inside, the room wasn't abandoned like the rest of the hotel. No, it was pristine. The bed neatly made, the air fresh, the lamp still glowing soft yellow. Like someone had been waiting for me. And there, sitting at the edge of the bed, was the woman in white. She smiled for the first time. And whispered, almost tenderly, "Now you finally remember me." Her smile didn't comfort me. It froze me. Because I had never seen her before, yet my body reacted like I had. Like a memory buried so deep it clawed its way out. I swallowed hard. Who are you?" She tilted her head, her hair falling in front of her pale face. "You don't remember the others, do you? The ones who walked into this room and never walked out." Her voice cracked, then steadied into something sharper. "They kept me here. Night after night. A prisoner in velvet sheets and locked doors. And when I screamed, no one came. No one ever came." The lamp beside the bed flickered violently, shadows stretching like claws along the walls. My chest tightened as she rose slowly from the mattress. Her feet didn't make a sound against the carpet. "You think you checked in by accident?" she asked. "No. You were brought here. Just like me. Just like them." I stumbled back, my hand reaching for the door. But it slammed shut, the brass handle burning hot under my grip. Her eyes glowed faintly, not with anger, but with sorrow. "I don't want to hurt you," she whispered. "But if you stay, you'll never leave this room either." The floor creaked. Behind her, the reflection in the mirror didn't match her movements. In the glass, she wasn't standing. She was still chained to the bed. And the reflection turned its head toward me. It smiled. I couldn't breathe. My chest was pounding so hard I thought my ribs would snap. The reflection wasn't just delayed, it was alive. Watching me. Grinning like it knew something I didn't. I turned away from the mirror, but the sound followed me, chains rattling, dragging across the floor. Except the girl in front of me wasn't moving at all. She stood completely still, her lips parting just enough to whisper, "Don't turn your back on it." My knees nearly gave out. I whipped around again and there it was, my own reflection, not hers, only it wasn't copying me anymore. It was closer to the glass, pressed against it, its mouth stretched wider than humanly possible. I shouted, throwing the lamp at the mirror. It exploded in sparks, glass scattering across the carpet. For a second I thought I'd broken it, that I'd ended whatever nightmare was crawling through. But then, the shards started to shift. Tiny slivers dragging themselves back into place, sliding together, reforming the mirror as if it had never shattered. And in the rebuilt surface, I saw not one reflection, but dozens. Men, women, all pale, all screaming silently, their hands pressed against the inside of the glass. Their eyes locked onto me like they were begging to be freed. The girl whispered again, but this time her voice cracked with terror. "You see them now. That means it's already too late." The walls groaned. The air grew heavy, thick, suffocating. The lights flickered out, leaving me in near darkness. Only the mirror glowed faintly in the corner, pulsing like a heartbeat. And for the first time since I checked into that room, I realized I wasn't just a guest. I was the next prisoner. The mirror pulsed brighter, filling the room with a pale light. I stumbled backward, clutching my crutches, but the floor seemed to tilt beneath me like the whole building was shifting. The faces inside the glass weren't screaming anymore. They were smiling. Their mouths stretched in grotesque unison, teeth glinting in the dim glow. I couldn't move or breathe as the mirror's surface rippled like water. A hand shot out. Cold. Wet. It grabbed my wrist with a grip so firm I thought my bones would snap. I screamed, yanking back, but another hand clawed at my shoulder, then another at my leg. In seconds I was surrounded by them, those silent prisoners, dragging me toward their glowing cage. The girl didn't move. She just stood there, staring at me with wide, empty eyes. And then, she smiled too. "Don't fight," she whispered. "It hurts more if you fight." I thrashed, kicking, screaming, but the glass swallowed my arm, then my chest. The cold burned, freezing me from the inside. My reflection on the surface didn't copy me anymore. It just watched, calm, as if it knew this moment had always been coming. The last thing I saw before the darkness consumed me was dozens of faces pressing closer, filling every inch of the mirror, their hollow eyes wide with hunger. And now, if you ever check into that hotel, if you ever stay in room 6, you'll see me. In the glass. Waiting. Smiling. Please, if you enjoyed the video, like, share, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. Thank you.